The key to great success, deliberately practicing one skill at a time. Now, once you have learned this skill, which you will, only one person in the world that can stop you from mastering a skill. Who is that? It's always yourself. It's a lack of self-discipline, lack of personal management, lack of control, and so on. I don't have enough time. I'm so busy. I'm tired all the time. What it takes, and they found that it takes about 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, of deliberate practice or focus on a new skill to master the skill. Once you have mastered the skill, then what do? Obvious, you ask the question again. Now, what one skill, if I was absolutely excellent at it, would help me the most to achieve my financial or business goals? What's the one skill? I was at a private meeting with the head of one of the biggest companies in the world, and that's terrible because the name escapes me for a second, but I had read a book that he had written 10 years before, and it was based on over 30 years of experience, and he'd run 2 Fortune 500 companies. He said what they discovered was that your weakest important skill sets the height of your income. Your weakest important skill. In every field, there's 5 to 7 vital skills. Your weakest skill in this little group of skills sets the height of your income and your success. And so often it's one skill that's holding us back more than anything else. And when I say that, everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's the one skill. But we know what it is. The only question is, are we going to sit there passively? Or are we going to say, I'm going to learn that skill. I'm going to become very good at that skill, whatever it happens to be. And the wonderful thing is that once you learn a skill, another thing happens, is a nickel drops in your brain and you realize, I can learn new skills. Damn, I could learn any skill. I could learn languages. I could learn, wow, suddenly the dam breaks in your mind and all the hesitation and lack of confidence and lack of certainty that you had, suddenly you realize I can learn anything I need to learn. And it gives you a tremendous sense of power. So from then on, your whole life becomes a do-it-to-yourself project. Your whole life becomes a process of learning one skill at a time, climbing the ladder of success. Every rung on the ladder is higher income, greater influence, greater power in your profession. Getting better in your field is one of the most important things you can do. So I have a question for you, moving right along. What is the most important work that you do in your field? What is the most important and highest paid work that you do? The answer is thinking. When I first heard this question, I wasn't clear about what the answer was, but the most important work you do is thinking well about yourself and your work. In fact, every mistake that you've ever made has been a result of poor thinking or not thinking at all. You all know what I'm talking about. Every success you ever had has usually been the result of really good thinking prior to taking action. Now, the reason why thinking is so important is that the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your decisions. It's an interesting observation is that you are where you are and what you are today as a result of the total of all your choices and decisions up to this moment. In every part of your life, from the time you became an adult or before, you've made choices and decisions. The cumulative result is where you are today. Your income, your health, your happiness, your business, everything else. But my great rule, which is quoted all the time, is that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. All that really matters is where you're going. Where you're going is only limited by your imagination. So what you do is you say, forget the past. In the past, I could have done things differently, but I can't change the past, but I can change the future completely by what I do now. So the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your choices and decisions. The quality of your choices and decisions determines the quality of your actions, and the quality of your actions determines the quality of your results. And in business and life, everything is results. Results are the most important single word. Is what results are expected of you? What results do you need to get in order to achieve the goals that you set for yourself? And the ability to be absolutely crystal clear about the results that are necessary is the mark of a leader. Peter Drucker said that the first question of the leader is always, what results are expected of me? What results are expected of me to fulfill my responsibilities, to fulfill my commitments? And it's absolutely amazing. If you ask this question, you'll find that 80% of your time at work is spent on doing things that have nothing to do with results. They are just busy things. They're conversations and reading the paper and making phone calls and going for lunch and so on. And if you're really strict with yourself, you'll find that much of what we do contributes nothing to the results that are most important to our success. And successful people are those who are very disciplined. Is this the very best use of my time? Now, the reason that thinking is so important, aside from the results, is because of the word consequences. I began studying time management and designing programs and books, and I'm now one of probably the top time management author in the world in books in 42 languages. And what I found when I was studying time management is this concept of consequences, which was one of those life-changing concepts. What it said was that something is important to the degree to which it has big potential consequences. Something is unimportant to the degree to which it has low or no consequences. And what is the difference between top people and average people? Top people do more and more things that have big potential consequences. Not guaranteed consequences, but potential consequences. Average people spend most of their time doing things that have low or no consequences at all. In other words, if they did them all day long, it wouldn't make any difference. But top people realize there's 2 or 3 things they can do: learning a critical skill, making a critical decision, taking an important action. There's certain things they can do that have enormous potential consequences. I have had experiences where meeting one person at the right time in my career has led to millions of dollars of revenue. And the consequences, I look back and I say, if I had not taken those steps and been assertive and aggressive and traveled and done all those things to establish that relationship, the difference would have been phenomenal. So it's a great question for you to ask. What are the consequences of what you're doing? And of all things, thinking has the greatest consequences. The quality of your thinking has the greatest consequences of all. Now, there's a good deal of work on thinking. We could spend all day on it. But basically, there's 2 dimensions of thinking. One is Nobel Prize-winning research on the difference between fast thinking and slow thinking. Daniel Kahneman has written a book on this subject. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. And it's a real slap in the face. You really open your eyes. Basically, he says there's 2 types of thinking. Fast thinking is intuitive, it's instinctive, it's automatic. Driving through traffic is a perfect example. You're thinking quickly, you're changing traffic and so on, changing lanes and so on. And conversation, almost everything we do is fast thinking, and there's a place for that, for things that are just normal and routine. He said there's another type of thinking though, and he is cited hundreds of times a year in scientific journals all over the world with this one concept. It's called slow thinking. And slow thinking is where you slow down and take time to think carefully before you commit time and resources and money, before you take an action. And many people make the mistake of mixing the 2. So they're actually doing things with fast thinking, quick decisions, when they should be saying, wait a minute, time out, stop, let me think about this. I remember working with a man. He was a great mentor of mine, started with nothing. He was worth $800 million when I worked with him, and he owned 200 companies. And this guy was brilliant. He could read a contract, and he could read a contract from the back. He could read a contract from the back and 6 months later quote it back to me. He had a photographic memory. Never seen that before. This guy was a genius. Everybody who knew him considered him to be one of the smartest business people in the world, at least if not in the country. And whenever I talked about anything serious with him, investments, businesses, developments, and so on, he would always say, let me think about that for a while. So we started talking on a Wednesday or Thursday, Friday. He said, let me think about it for a while. And what I learned later, as I watched really successful people, is that they realized that some things required slow thinking. And Drucker talks about this. He talks about the important things you do, like selecting a new employee, going into a business, developing a partnership, taking on a major client. These require slow thinking. And fast thinking in these areas can almost invariably lead to failure and tremendous losses. So what these top business people would do is when it was a big decision that had big potential consequences, they would slow down. And the way that they would slow down is they would just put time between the information and the decision. So this is just a very important thing. Whenever you are faced with a big decision that has big potential consequences, just say, let me think about that for a while. And the ideal time is 72 hours. 72 hours just seems to be the perfect time to turn an idea over before you make a decision. If it's not necessary to decide, it's necessary not to decide. Say, let me think about that over the weekend and I'll get back to you next week. And when you do that, you will be astonished at how much better a thinker you are, how much better decisions you make, and how much more successful you are. So these are the critical things about thinking, which brings us to another question. And the question is, what is your most valuable financial asset? It's your ability to earn money is your most valuable financial asset. Unless you're born rich or you're born into a situation where you have lots of money, most of us start off with usually nothing. Many of us start off poor. We come from limited backgrounds. That's the nature of the successful business person, is they say that in adult life, we are driven most in adult life to compensate for the lack that we felt as children. Whatever lack that we felt or deficiency we felt as children, we're unconsciously motivated to compensate for that as adults. So many of the most successful business people came from humble backgrounds. Not all of them, but most of them. Most of the fortunes, the millionaires and billionaires today, are first generation. They started with nothing. And then, because they had this internal drive, they got smarter and more experienced, and they had talents and skills, and today they're wealthy. So your earning ability is your most valuable financial asset. Economists are now calling this your earning power. So if you earn $50,000 a year, your earning power is $50,000 a year. It's usually 90% or more of your financial assets. If you have a house or a car or some savings, then that's part of your financial assets. But basically, most of what we have is our earning ability. So you could lose your job and lose your house and your car and your business, which happens all the time. But if you could be left standing there with the ability to earn money, you could go back into the marketplace and start to pump tens of thousands of dollars or more into your life by simply applying your earning ability to your world. And most people ignore their earning ability. It's almost like walking past a brick or a bag on the sidewalk. They just walk past it and they say, oh, they don't realize this is the most precious thing you have. And your earning ability is either increasing or decreasing. Your earning ability does not remain the same. It's either going up because you're upgrading your skills continually, or it's going down because your skills are becoming obsolete in a fast-changing world. What would you say is the most important skill for success? Focus is the most important requirement for success. With focus, you can do anything, and without focus, you can do nothing. Focus is the key to success. But all three said it simultaneously without asking each other. Focus. And it's really interesting because I began teaching this concept back in the year 2000. I began a coaching and mentoring program that I called focal point coaching. But the focal point is where if you hold a magnifying glass in a certain way, it'll have a focal point that burns, and you can burn through things. So I called it focal point. And I taught thousands of business owners, and have still all over the world in multiple languages, how they can look at each part of their business and focus on the one thing in each area that they can do right now that will have the greatest positive impact. Everything else they do has a lesser impact or no impact. And your ability to select the one thing that can have the greatest impact on your life at any time and focus is the key to your success. That's why I'm so concerned about, I call it the attraction of distraction. It is so disturbing because it guarantees failure in life. You actually become addicted to distraction and you can't stop it. You're just like a dope addict. You've got to have your distraction. And if you are addicted to distraction, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you haven't got a chance against someone who can. And so therefore, I'm hitting this a little bit hard, but I want you to think about it because most people slip into this attraction of distraction and we're not even aware of it. Many of you are a little bit surprised when I talk about it because you hadn't even really thought about it. You hadn't even really thought about how much time you spend during the day distracted. And the answer is about 80%. And the rest of the time, by the end of the day, you're too tired to do anything worthwhile, to do the really important things that have big potential consequences. So your earning ability is your most important quality. And your earning ability means developing one skill at a time that can help you the most to get the most important results that determine your success and your happiness. Now here's the great payoff, is they say that happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. When you actually feel yourself moving progressively toward achieving something that's important to you, you feel happy, and your brain releases endorphins. Now, endorphins are different from dopamines, but endorphins are nature's happy drug. They make you happy. Endorphins make you more creative. They make you calmer. They make you more personable. They make you more focused, and they give you more energy. So people who have high levels of endorphins are very healthy. They sleep well. They're very personable. They're creative all the time. And you can actually develop a positive addiction to endorphins. And the way you do that is you work on things that are moving you toward your goals on a regular basis. And so every day you feel this forward progress, this forward momentum. Human beings are designed so that we're only happy when we feel effective, when we feel that we are accomplishing something, when we feel productive, when we feel valuable. One of the challenges we have with welfare in any country that has it, but especially in the U.S., is people can very quickly get addicted to welfare, but by becoming addicted to welfare and free money, they become angry, they develop feelings of inferiority, they become alcoholic. All the joy in life is gone when they're not doing something productive, when they're not contributing. The rule is that your self-esteem and self-confidence are largely determined by the degree to which you feel you are putting more in than you're getting back out. It's a very simple concept, is you feel that you're actually contributing more than you're getting. If you're at a job and you feel that you're not contributing as much as they're paying you, you feel really angry. It seems to have a deep negative effect on your personality. But when you feel that you're doing a great job, that you're really making a difference or a contribution, you feel wonderful about yourself. And the only way that you can achieve that is by having clear goals and then focus. I began to study management when I got into business many years ago, and I've read 6,000 books. I've studied an average of 3 hours a day for 50 years. I hate to say it, 50 years. About 150,000 hours. I've read every conceivable book I possibly could and articles, and I'm still reading and learning great stuff. Some of the best thinkers in the world are writing today in books and articles and talking about breakthroughs, some of the things we just talked about now. Thinking skills, thinking fast and slow, short and long-term thinking, and so on. Everything is your ability to achieve goals. And so we have to start off with my favorite word is clarity. What exactly are the business goals that you want to achieve, and how do you measure them, and what is your deadline for achieving them? It is amazing how many business people and entrepreneurs avoid this question because they're afraid that they may not achieve the goal to the degree to which they can measure it and on that deadline, so they don't even want to set the goal at all. The major reason I found when I began studying human success 35 years ago, the major reason people don't set goals is that they're afraid they may fail. And they don't like the feeling of failure, so they don't set them at all. And so instead of setting very clear goals and making plans to achieve them, they just work every day. And they hope that everything will be fine. They just hope it'll be fine. But successful people set and achieve goals, and they know what their goals are, and every person in the business knows what their specific goals are, which contribute to achieving the goals of the company. And the number one word is clarity. Be absolutely clear about your goals, your sales goals, your income goals, your profitability goals, your profit margin goals, your growth goals, your customer acquisition goals. Is be very clear about your goals and then make plans to achieve them, and a plan is merely a list of activities organized by sequence. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And then set deadlines. When am I going to achieve this goal? Now, don't worry about missing the deadline or failing at achieving the goal. Failure is far more common in business than success. But every single time you set a goal and a schedule and a plan and you fail at it, you learn something valuable that helps you to be more successful next time.